everybody. Welcome once again to the Winning Digital Customers Podcast. I have a good friend with me today, Shep Hyken. Many of you know who he is. He's a New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestselling author. He is an expert at customer service and customer experience. He speaks all over the world. We're really, really lucky to get him with us today. He's also the author of many books, including the recent best-selling book, I'll Be Back, How to Get Customers to Come Back Again and Again. Shep, thank you so much for being here. Feel free to critique my Arnold impersonation. And
I was going to say, if you're going to pull that off, you have to put the glasses on. Okay. These are the Terminator glasses. And by the way, there's even a Terminator font on the book. I'll Be Back, How to Get Your Customers to Come Back Again and Again, which really, when I started writing it, had nothing to do with the movie Terminator. It was about 3 sentences into my outline when I realized Arnold made these words famous. I've got to figure out a little bit of a tie-in, at least. I can't leave it out. So there's a tiny little bit of, it's like, well, this is what you want your customers to say. And you don't want them to terminate you. So that's where that comes from.
And that's happening, more and more. We
yeah,
see it,
and it's,
as we talk about all the
it's
time.
really interesting. So next year when we do our research, it'll be very interesting to see because service has been so important. And for the first time ever, I believe that the supply chain issues, the fact that there's scarcity means a customer that was loyal to a company will go somewhere else just because they don't have the product, which means the loyalty is up for grabs. More than ever, we have to deliver that experience. And what I would do if I was a company that sold something to a customer and I had to tell them there's a delay, there's a problem. I know I'm getting ahead of myself here. I know you were going to ask the question. Part of what I do is I read minds and I guess what you're going to say. But because customer service is anticipatory and sometimes predictive and proactive. All right, but here's what's happening is that customers are not finding what they want, so they're forced to go somewhere else. I believe that the company that has to make them go somewhere else should not make them go without their help. So, for example, I'm sorry, we're out of that. It looks like we're 3 months behind on that washer and dryer. If you would let me do a little research, I'll get back to you and find out which one of our competitors has it, and then you can buy from them. And I hate to see you do that, but I can't let you sit there without that washer and dryer. It's just, and anybody that then says, my God, they are more they're more concerned about me than they are the actual sale. I've got to go back to them. And that's the way you're going to keep your customers coming back, even in this supply chain issue that we have.
Yeah. Well, that goes right to a key idea that you talk about all the time in the title of the research report that you've just put out that I really want to get to, which is customer amazement.
Yes.
How amazed is that customer? Not just that dirty word of satisfied, but absolutely amazed by that type of response when you don't have what they want.
Yeah, the satisfied customer is not a loyal customer. They're just satisfied for the moment. So, and in the book, by the way, let's tie it all together. In the book, in every book I do, I talk about the foundational concept of managing every interaction you have. Jan Carlson came up with this idea years ago. You manage the moment of truth. Anytime a customer, guest, client, member, whatever you want to call the people that do business with you, patient, resident, if you're in some type of apartment or condo space, whatever, anytime a customer comes into contact with any aspect of what you do, they form an impression. And that is the moment of truth, and it goes one of 3 ways. It's bad, which means there's a problem, a complaint, and sometimes they'll tell you about it, which is great when they do. There's average, satisfactory. That's where that satisfied customer comes from, because typically satisfied customers, yeah, I'm satisfied. What does satisfied mean? It means it's fine, and fine is not fine. Fine is a 4-letter word that starts with F, and in the customer service world, that is the F-bomb of customer service and experience. But then there's the moment of magic, which is the positive experience that you have. And it can be a little bit great. It could be really great. It could be just a tiny little bit better than average. The point is it's just better than your typical average. And by the way, this is what amazing companies do. So when you talk about customer amazement, and we covered this in the I'll Be Back book as well as a number of my other books, anything that to me, if you've never read my books, and you pick up one, I want you to know at least what the foundation is. Amazement is just the predictable experience that's better than average. So it's not over the top. It's just They're always helpful. They always get back to me quickly. They're always friendly. The word always followed by something positive, and you are in that zone of amazement, provided it really is always.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with my son who's in high school just yesterday, and he was saying something, was complaining about a customer experience he'd had. And he basically said, as he put it, that company sucks. And I don't want to say who the company is, but it is the cell phone provider that he uses, right? And so it's one of the country's largest, mobile carriers. And, it was a real moment of insight for me, because I said to him, his name is Foster. I said, Foster, you're on your phone all day long, aren't you? And he said, yeah. I said, so you're using the services of this company constantly? And he's, yeah. And I said, and how often do you have a problem with like the service, like the coverage, the bandwidth? He's like, not really. It's fine. I get what I need, So, and I said, how often have you ever called them? And he goes, this is the first time I ever had to call them. So I said, okay, so you've had this company as your cell phone carrier for a few years since he got a cell phone, right? He's a junior in high school, so he probably got his cell phone in 7th or 8th grade. They've always pretty much delivered very consistently reliable service for you. You called them once, you were unhappy with it, and you've concluded that they suck. And he's like, well, yeah. And I thought, wow, that's the power of a customer service interaction. After years
it's judgment
of nearly flawlessly giving this kid broadband, he thinks they suck because one person was an idiot on the phone when he called.
Is that crazy? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's judgment day.
It's kind of,
you could be, so what you're doing is every interaction you have is an opportunity to renew the relationship or confirm they're making the right decision to do business with you as life goes on. You could be flawless, perfect for 20 years, and then there's a true moment of misery that the customer has. And at that moment, whoever that customer calls, that customer service agent, the rep, whatever you want to call it, maybe it's just their salesperson. At that moment, it's like judgment day. You have the opportunity to confirm that I've been making the right decision all these years. Otherwise, come next time I have an opportunity to switch, I may just do it. That's the danger we have. By the way, quiet customers that never complain, it doesn't mean they're not happy or unhappy. It just means they've chosen not to tell you either way. And I always believe that silent customer, or worse, the satisfied customer, that's a dangerous customer. At least if there's a true problem, I might have the opportunity to fix it if you tell me about it. But if it's just okay, given the opportunity to do some business with somebody or some company that's just a little bit better than okay, you might just switch as a result.
Yeah. And I love that idea of Judgment Day. And by the way, that's another Terminator movie. So I love how you're continuing your theme.
I was wondering if you were going to pick up on that. I was going to put my glasses on when I said Judgment Day. So.
Yeah. Now, when you said I have to wear my glasses when I do the Arnold interpretation, I want you to know I'm ready. So I'm ready to do my next.
I don't think those are the glasses that the Arnold. That's like. Does this look
those
like
aren't
Arnold?
Arnold's glasses? Okay. Well, maybe in the last movie where doesn't he become like a blind salesman and he's probably got his. All right. So yes, absolutely. I think that this is this is a key idea and a key insight. And I know, I want to talk a little bit about research, because I think one thing that's really amazing about what you're doing is, after years and years and years of consulting with so many of the leading brands in the world on their customer experience and multiple New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestselling books, you're still every single year doing new, fresh research with consumers. And so let me ask the first question. Haven't you already learned everything already? Why are you continuing to do these research studies?
So not only do I research, I read at least 10 articles a day. You can see this. These are books that are on my to-read list, and I'll get to them pretty quickly. Read about 40 to 50 books a year.
Wait, Shep, I think people want to know what is on Shep Hyken's to-read list.
Oh, wow. This is a great book, Built to Win by Annette Franz. And Annette Franz, I'm doing the Arnold accent, Franz, okay? Hans and Franz, remember that one with Arnold? This is a great one. The Hawk Method by Eric Huberman. It's a marketing book, really interesting. The Culture Playbook, this is an advanced copy by Daniel Coyle. This will be coming out. I'll be interviewing him sometime soon. Just like I interviewed you for your amazing book, what, about a year and a half, 2 years ago? The digital...
Yeah, it's been a while now.
How long's it been out?
Winning Digital Customers, yeah.
2 years now, almost.
January of 2021. So I guess it's a year and 4
year,
months.
a few months. Yeah, I remember that book. It was a book of the year for me, one of them anyway. Yep. So anyway, I'm constantly reading, constantly researching. Here's what I found out a number of years ago as I do a lot of keynote speeches at events all over the world. I quote a lot of stats and facts, and I realize if I'm supposed to be the expert, why am I not quoting my own stats and facts? And not only that, so what I did is I took the stat that I was quoting, I reverse engineered what I thought the question might be, because I wanted to see if I asked a group of consumers, over 1,000 consumers, which makes it statistically valid. By the way, I looked at all gender, age, so based on the U.S. population. It's called a Gen Pop study. So it's the typical consumer. Over 1,000, we interview them. Am I going to get the same information? And you know what? I got pretty close to the same information, which leads me to believe those stats were real. But now guess what? They're my stats, and I'm quoting from my research, and now others are quoting from my research as well. The other thing I like is that I could take a look at what's happened the year before and the year before that and see if there's any trends. It's a lot easier to spot trends when you're doing your own research. And we see a few that are very interesting. And if I see there's I asked a really important question. Do you think customer service is better or worse since the pandemic? And I don't have the stat right in front of me, but a lot of people say it's worse. And I believe it's not that it's worse. It's the experience has become worse. The people are typically the same kinds of people you've been dealing with. But when you have something now, this is a great word, skimpflation. Are you familiar with this word? It's a new word. I'd never heard of it until a few months ago.
No, I'm not.
So apparently on a PBS podcast, somebody used the word skimpflation. And the idea is it's not that companies want to do this, but they've been forced to skimp on the experience, either because of supply chain issues, which we mentioned a moment ago, or maybe there's employment issues where I can't keep employees. I'm in the kind of business where there's a great resignation, and it's hit my business rather hard. So as a result, as much as I want to give you good service, I'm forced to cut my hours down. I don't have as many people. I can't keep the entire, I wrote about this. One company or one restaurant decided that they would shut down almost half the restaurant because they didn't have the servers. And customers would say, all those tables are empty. And the manager would say, I'm so sorry, but we do not have enough servers. And I don't want to give you a less than stellar experience. And that's what would happen if I filled those tables. It would take you an hour to get your food. You wouldn't be happy. Anyway, I know I'm going down this rabbit hole, but it's important to know that these are the types of things we look at, we study, as a result, come up with new questions to ask on next year's research.
Yeah, great. So we're talking about the study that Shep has released very recently called the Achieving Customer Amazement Study. Mm-hmm. And by the way, this is available from Shep's website,
free.
And we'll leave you the link for that.
How do we
you can get it?
It's free.
We lose amazing.
Yeah, we lose money on every sale, but we make up for it in volume. Is that right? No. But seriously, go to the website, hyken.com. It's free. Download it. And you can actually download the year befores and the year before that, and you can kind of look at different studies if you like. And some of the benchmark questions show the difference in this year's report.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you've been doing it for a few years and that you can do those multi-year comparisons, and especially now that we've had such an earthquake disruption in the way people view almost all of their interactions because of COVID. By the way, I've put my glasses on not to do my Arnold impersonation, but rather to read the statistics in your study, because you mentioned earlier about the perception that customers have about the customer experiences have gotten worse. Your study says 49% of customers reported having more bad customer service experiences in the past year compared to previous years.
Pandemic.
So maybe that's similar to
that's the pandemic.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a lot of people. That's almost half of them saying you're not as good. And when that happens, remember, loyalty is up for grabs. So the way to handle the bad experience is different than it was before, because sometimes the bad experience is out of your control. I'm sorry, we're out of it. I'm sorry, we can't get it. I know we ordered it. The vendor or manufacturer said it was going to be here. And so I believe as a company, I need to be, if I'm in this situation, if I'm, let's say, a home builder, I need to let my customer know that the things that were supposed to come in on time are not on time, out of our control. I need to be doing damage control before the customer finds out about it. proactive service is what this is. It's the ability to tell a customer before they know there's a problem. I'll give you an example. Your son, Foster, he had to call the phone company when? Not because he knew there was a problem and he had it for a while. It's maybe something happened and immediately he knew. It's like the internet, okay? The only way you know the internet is down is if you turn on your TV and it doesn't work, or you turn on your computer and it doesn't work, right? But until that, internet could have been working fine or not. We don't know. So the point is, when Foster found out there was a problem, chances are the problem had been happening before. And I won't mention the name of the company, but their initials are Comcast. Oh, there you go. I just did it. So here's what Comcast does. And I'm not going to tell you they're the best at what they do. And I'm not going to tell you they're perfect at what they do. But they really, really are trying hard to deliver a good experience. So what they do is they say, I want every way to communicate with you. I want to know what your Facebook name is. I want to know what your Twitter handle is, LinkedIn, email, phone. And here's what's going to happen. Whenever there's a power outage or an internet outage, I'm going to blast every form of communication to you. I'm sorry you're going to get a lot of information, but at least you're going to know. Somehow, some way, you'll know there's a problem and that we're working on it so that you don't have to call us and complain, and we'll keep you updated along the way. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. Still, there's a problem, but they're doing their best to make it easier on me.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of companies would try to hide the problem from the customer. Yep. Say, let's just hope they don't notice.
Well, this is the digital experience.
Counterintuitive a little bit. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're right. In this transparent world, people do value that. So I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the most interesting findings that came out of your study, and there are so many. But just looking at the importance of customer experience. One of the things that you observed this year, because as you've been observing this, doing this research for a number of years, is that as important as it already was, the importance of customer experience continues to grow as you survey people about it. Using, as I believe you're asking like some of the exact same questions year after year, right? Yep. And you're seeing some different answers.
So I hope that you have.
So can you talk a little bit about the growing importance?
Yeah, and I hope what you have is the most recent report, because I found an error. We set this whole page up with the wrong question, and it's basically how important are each of these following customer service experiences in today's world. And we looked at, just to give you an example, employees are kind and helpful. Seems that would be pretty important. Do you know it's more important today than it was last year? How could that be? I think it would be important every year. The ability to reach the right customer, employees that are knowledgeable about their products and services. The ability to reach the right customer support person. Fast response, whether it be from an email, a message, or a text. In other words, if I email you, I don't want to wait 3 days. I would like, maybe some people say 3 hours is too long. Delivery has become more important. The convenience, as we know with COVID, people started to get their groceries delivered, and now they kind of love everything getting delivered. And Amazon stepped up and went from 2-day delivery to next day delivery to 2-hour delivery. I mean, that's pretty fast. And now there's, I just wrote about this not that long ago. There's a grocery store chain, it might be Kroger, that is trying to excel in 15-minute delivery. 15 minutes. Now, how do you do that when I live 20 minutes from the store? So, but maybe it's within a
anticipatory service.
Right. But little or no hold time. Anyway, every one of these we asked, and what's amazing is in every single case, either it was equal or even more important than last year. And that's what blew my mind. So, I think that more than ever, customers are saying the experience is important.
And that dovetails with your skimpflation comment. Customer service is more important, and yet many companies are challenged to even maintain their level of customer service, either due to money or due to labor.
Yep. And so you've got to make sure you're communicating with your customer the right way, proactively, ongoing, reminding them how important they are to you as a company and making them feel loved, because when they do get to buy next time, if you sent them somewhere else to buy it because you didn't have it, hopefully they're going to come back to you and give you the next shot. And by the way, I hope this whole skimpflation thing is a history lesson in the near future. It's driving a lot of companies crazy.
Right. Yes. It makes me wonder when we hear about everything is more important, at least in customer service, it reminds me of, when we'll do a prioritization exercise with a client around features of something, and every feature is a top is high importance. And so in this case, I wonder if all of these aspects of customer experience are more important, is something less important? What is becoming less important to make room for how much more important customer experience is? Is it price? Is it product? Is it geography? Is it something else?
Well, I think when we get into any economic situation as we're coming into now, I don't think we're quite in a recession, but people are really worried inflation is starting to drive prices up. I think people will become, for at least the short term, a little bit more price sensitive than usual, but there's no doubt. I mean, I believe it's 58% of our customers said, or the consumers that we interviewed said that price was less relevant. In other words, service is more important. And by the way, I keep using the word consumer, and I want everybody out there, no matter where you are in the world, to recognize two things. Number one, you may be in a retail or B2C, business to consumer type of business, or B2B. And where you are in the world will depend on, these numbers aren't going to be the same. But even though they aren't the same, they probably are similar in like, it's still important, may not be as important or maybe more important. For a B2B customer, does this apply? 100%. And I'll tell you why. Your customers who you're doing business with, if I'm selling you a piece of machinery that you're then going to use in a manufacturing process, if I don't deliver it in a level of service that you love, the next time you need a new piece of machinery, you're not buying it from me. And the thing is, I walk into a mall to buy a pair of blue jeans, I can go to 10 different stores and probably get the same or similar jeans. If I'm in the B2B world, the choices are much, much smaller. If I make a mistake that's due to service and you end up buying from someone else, that's, in some cases, a whole generation. I was working with this robotics company, and 15 to 20 years go by before the machine needs to be replaced. Now, here's what happens in that 20 years. 20 years worth of maintenance contracts. That's where they make the real money. It's not the actual machinery. So it's what they termed a generational mistake. It's a whole new generation of customer who probably hasn't even worked for the company all that long, that you're now going to have to resell on using you and bid against a new incumbent because you made a mistake 15, 20 years ago. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So B2B,
losing a B2B customer can be
B2B, B2C.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even the government needs to start focusing on a little bit better service experience, which last year President Biden signed an order that various services such as the IRS and Social Security, I can't remember, it was a large number, 15 or 20 of the government units that deal directly with what you would call citizens who are consumers. They're going to try to create a better digital experience so people can get information easier, faster, quicker, and would say that the experience with the government is better. I can't wait for that.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because, before you know it, we'll love paying our taxes and getting our driver's license.
No, we'll just love the people who take them.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that about digital because that was where I wanted to go next. A lot of times when people think of customer service, the first image that comes to mind is someone at a call center with a headset or a person helping me in a store. Of course, a lot of customer service today, or at least attempts are being made to provide digital ways to deliver that customer service. I think both because it's cheaper for companies, in many cases anyway, and also I think a lot of people demand to be able to do that. But I'm curious, where does self-service, some people kind of view self-service as kind of automatically less than, we're not giving you that human touch. We're just sending you to a website or an app to fend for yourself. How do you think self-service fits into that goal of delivering amazing customer service?
Sure. Well, if the customer has the experience or feels the way that you just described, the company's failed. They shouldn't send somebody to a website to fend for themselves. They should send somebody to a website to either look at a frequently asked question, they call a knowledge base is the technical word for that, but it's the frequently asked question section, or perhaps there's video tutorials, or perhaps I can log on and start chatting with the computer. What's my bank balance? Did you receive my payment? Where's my package? All of those are so simple and easy if it's set up the right way, very intuitive for a customer to use. It's going to save them time and effort. Matter of fact, we asked and they said 71% said, yes, I use self-service tools, such as what I just mentioned. What's interesting, however, is if you ask them what their preference is, the preference is still the phone. And what was really interesting to me this year is that this year they said 65% said I'd rather use the phone than a digital experience first, okay? That actually went up from last year, and you would think people are more used to digital tools, that the phone would be less and less important. But no, this year the phone became more important. I think part of that is because during the pandemic, people just wanted to talk to people, and for the last year or two, people have said, I'm just going to pick up the phone and call somebody. But let me give you a great example of this that I think all of us can relate to. And Howard, when is the last time that you picked up the phone to call an airline to make a reservation? Just the fact that you had to think about it that long, you're going, okay, when did I do it? Tells me it's been a while. But you've taken trips since that time, perhaps, and you've always just gone online and, looked at the schedule and booked your flight, paid for it with a credit card.
Yep. The only time I call, like I was in Poland and my flight got canceled.
Obviously, if there's a problem, but just to book the reservation.
Last minute kind of thing, No, I would never call.
But a typical flight. I mean, if you're doing a big international trip, I can see where I might want to get a travel agent, or I might want to check with the reservationist just to make sure. But the typical customer, so years ago, Delta Airlines was the first to do this. They said, hey, if you would go online and book your ticket online, we're going to give you a $25 credit. Really what it meant is if you called them, they were going to pay $25 more to use the agent. What they wanted to do is train the customer on this experience that they thought would be better, and it really was. And then eventually they came out with the online check-in, and the way they didn't give you a discount, but many of the airlines said, do this, we're going to give you 250 or 500 miles to try this experience. And if you do and you like it, we know you will, you can cut the line or actually just avoid the line, not even cut the line, avoid the line at the check-in counter. If you don't have any luggage to check, you go straight to your gate. Wow, what could be better than that? A friend of mine said, I just had the best experience ever on Delta Airlines. I got all the way to the gate and I didn't have to talk to an employee. And I thought, you don't like the Delta Airlines employees? He goes, oh, no, you got it wrong. He said, what I mean is they created this great experience that, if there was a problem, I know I could call them, but I didn't have to. And all of a sudden I'm at the gate and I realize, wow, it was so easy. It was fast. I didn't have to wait on hold. I don't know if you remember this years and years ago. And Howard, you may not be that old. I know I'm not that. Okay, maybe I am. Back in the early 80s when I was actually starting my business, I actually had to go to a ticket office to get my tickets printed so that when I went to the airport, I didn't have to deal with it at the airport. There were the computer systems back then.
And those big machines, right? If you wanted to be a travel agent, you had to invest in a ticket printing machine. Huge. It couldn't just come off a normal printer. Yeah, and then it would go ka-chunk, and it would print these like cards, right? That were your airline tickets. Yeah.
Yeah, and so quite a bit different today that it's all on your phone, and which isn't even, it's not a phone anymore. It's a mobile device. I use the phone less than I do any other app that's on there, constantly checking for flights, keeping my tickets, airline tickets, St. Louis Blues hockey tickets where I'm going tonight in just a little while. But that's the difference is that people do enjoy the digital experience as long as it's set up the right way. If you turn around and make somebody call you and you put them on hold for an extended period of time, all of a sudden you've created friction and inconvenience, and you've ruined the experience. And enough of those times, customers won't come back.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I think it can be a great solution to some of the challenges you just mentioned before about labor shortages and all that. I think about the restaurant you mentioned where they had to close down half their seating. I was not too long ago in a full sit-down restaurant where you could order, the menu was on your phone, but not just the menu, but you could order from your phone. And so we placed our order, we paid, all from our phone. And then, the waiter came and brought our food. And what I noticed at that restaurant, it was like a kind of a mid-scale hamburger place, not like a McDonald's. Mm-hmm. It was like a nice sit-down kind of hamburger place in Greenwich Village. And what I noticed is that, the waiters were chit-chatting with the customers. I noticed they were taking photos of the table next to me because they were having some sort of celebration, like a work group celebrating something or other. And, I just had this observation, and I just thought about, like, wow, when you think about what most wait staff has to do, they got sort of three main jobs. They got to take your order, they got to bring you your food, and they got to get you to pay the bill. And if all of a sudden I can do two of those three things on my phone, maybe I can run my restaurant with fewer wait staff if I have to, and still provide that level of service, and or leave my wait staff to do the stuff that's more high touch, that's more valuable to be a human being doing it, rather than just, here's your check, sir, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Panera is a great example of that. They're based here in St. Louis, Missouri, where I live, and I've watched them go from St. Louis bread company to expanding to basically an international presence. What was interesting is watching them switch to the self-service solution over the years. What would happen is it used to be you walked up to the counter, you ordered your food, then you stood over at another counter and waited for your name to be called, and then they'd give you your food. And it started out that way, and then it went for order here. Here's a little, I don't know what you call it, like a pager, if you will. Sit down, and you would put the pager in the middle of the table where there was some kind of a communication device, and the server would then bring the food to you. So even if you were not staying, you would still sit down and relax. And then it started, here are these kiosks where you can go over to the kiosk, place your order, grab your pager, or you could still go to the front. But I noticed instead of having 4 or 5 people at the front counter, they only have 1 or 2. Nobody's complaining. And so I asked the manager, are you cutting down on your employees? He says, oh, absolutely not. We're giving our employees the chance to interact with their customers better and try to create a better relationship, because we want this place to be what Starbucks has done, creating this great experience where you'll spend so much more for a cup of coffee to sit down and relax in this amazing environment. They said, we want to create that same experience here, and the way we're going to do it is our people are going to just interact better with our customers, and they're going to love us. I love that idea. Now, things changed a little bit again because of the last 2 years, but I anticipate they're going to get better at it as things get back to normal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're doing a great job. I saw a stat recently that said 49% of all their orders are now coming in through some digital channel. So obviously that's a huge, component. And I actually had an experience in a Panera. This is probably a year ago or so during the pandemic, but I went into a Panera to get food for my family, and there was a long line. And I thought, ugh. And then I thought, I can probably order on the app. And just for fun, I looked to see, like, who was at the back of the line, like, who would because I considered even getting in line while I was ordering, then I thought, well, I can't do that because if I order on my phone, then I'm committed, But I just looked to see, and I noticed the clothing on the person who was at the back of the line, so I'd remember them. And I ordered on the phone, and, what they do there is if you order, then they bring it out and they put it on like a sort, at least this Panera, they had like a table, like just a place where they put, to-go orders. And sure enough, my order came out. I probably waited about 10 or 12 minutes after I ordered it. And the person that I had remembered, who was wearing a green jacket, was about maybe the second person to the front of the line. So like they were, after the person currently giving their order, they were going to give their order. And then, of course, they would have to wait for the food to be prepared, So they were definitely behind. So you could just imagine the sense of superiority that gave me over those poor slobs who waited.
You thought, score, I just beat them. I love that.
Isn't that what life is all about,
So
that was my moment of amazement.
Yeah, I was at a hotel at a major conference center, and the line was unbelievably long. And I said to somebody there, how long is this line going to be? Somebody who worked there. We're really sorry, sir, over an hour. Now, this is a Las Vegas convention hotel. And they said, it's just, we have a convention that's checking out and one that's coming in. I go, this hasn't happened before? I mean, come on. This is not an experience. My first experience in your hotel is that you're wasting my time. I wrote a book years ago titled The Amazement Revolution. I use 4 seasons as an example. When there are more than 3 people in line, they bring another person out. They do not want their people having to wait. They feel that that's an inconvenience and it's not respecting them. Well, this hotel did such a poor job. So what I did is I direct messaged them on Twitter, and I said, I am standing in an extremely long line in the middle of the afternoon, and I realized, yes, there's a convention checking in, but you had to know this was going to happen. I have a meeting in about a half an hour, and I've been told my line is more than an hour. I wonder if there's anything you can do. Put more people behind the desk or come out and find me, okay? And the rest of the story is they came out and found me. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. We direct message.
The one guy who complained on Twitter, yeah. So, again, you beat the system, but everyone else had to wait in line.
Because they don't know. They don't know. So here's what's interesting. Had I known ahead of time, there was a remote or what's the word, pre-check, where I could check in ahead of time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I did not use that system. And had I known that was there, and if I'd have just read my confirmation, I would have known, okay? But they taught me what to do for the next time. So 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, I'm never going to call them again for this question because they taught me, and that's real important. And number 2, I'll never stand in that line again because they taught me. And even though I was upset with them at the beginning, I was happy with them, with the way they handled the experience. So well, in fact, that I look forward to going back and using that app.
Yeah. Well, and of course they don't want you standing in line because every minute in line is a minute you're not gambling in Las Vegas.
That's true too.
Well, you mentioned you could have expected it, or they could have expected it. One thing I could have expected is that this time would go by like in a blink of an instant, because we are already actually over our allocated time for this podcast. So hard to believe. I know we've just begun. So there's always so much you and I can talk about, Shep. But thank you so much for being here. I want to give you a chance to let people know where they can find. I think you mentioned earlier, but just to be sure they know, if they're interested in learning more about you, your speaking, your consulting, your books, where should they go? What should they do?
Just go to hyken.com, HYKEN.com. And if you want the research, click on the little research button and you'll be able to download it. You'll get my newsletter, which is free. And I always have fun cartoons every week and a good business message. It's always business related, and always tied to customer service and experience. And so we'd love to have you join that community. And thank you so much for having me. I hope I get to say this. No kidding aside, I'll be back. Yeah, I mean, we have much more to talk about.
But you didn't do the Arnold voice. Give me the Arnold voice.
I would be back. I'm not an Arnold impersonator.
Oh, nice. No, but that was better than mine. All right. Well, as always, thank you, Shep. Thank you for being here. This was great. And as always, thanks to all of you for watching and listening to the Winning Digital Customers podcast. Until next time, keep transforming.